Hey everybody, it's Dr. V from the Veterinary Telemedicine Facebook community, and I am thrilled to have here today Dr. Deborah Thompson from OneHealthLessons.com. Thank you so much for joining me on my video cast.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and I think it was on LinkedIn, right, that we were connected. Was it through Mia Carey, who connects everybody. She's the most incredible person.
Thank you,
but she
Mia.
said, yeah. And she said, you have to meet Dr. Thompson. She is doing the most incredible things with One Health, which I love. I've been super passionate about it since I was in vet school like 100 billion years ago, but it's not something, even in the veterinary community, that you hear talked about too often. But it tends to pop up in, pandemics.
For instance.
And, yeah, all of a sudden everybody realizes how important it becomes. So this is not something new for you, though. You have been interested in One Health forever, but I want to go even further back because you mentioned that you were actually a teacher before you went into vet school. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, and thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about One Health Lessons and just chat in general. I've been looking forward to this chat for a while, so thanks for that. So yes, it's true. My background is I have been teaching for years before going to veterinary school. While I was in my undergraduate programs, I did 2 bachelor's degrees because I'm a complete dork.
Of course you did. Typical vet,
you know how it goes.
Cover all my bases. Yeah.
Right. So I did 2 bachelor's degrees, and one was very heavy on ecology, but I ended up with a biology major. The other one was music. And the way I made money in undergrad is I was teaching music. I was teaching in primary schools, elementary schools, and I was also teaching one-on-one lessons and sectionals. So
did you teach the little recorder? That was like
no, I actually taught like real flute.
Oh!
Like flute.
That was my instrument growing up.
Oh, awesome.
So did you have a preference for one or the other, music over biology, or was it just, I can't even choose?
Honestly, if your last name is Thompson, you're automatically a musician. So
yeah.
Others also have a bachelor's of music. So, and my dad has a bachelor's of music. So that's, how it goes with my family. But I've always been passionate about biology and particularly animals, but I never thought about veterinary medicine. I was 20 until I was 21, but that comes in later. Anyway, because that makes sense, right?
No, so you came from a family of musicians. How did the interest in ecology come about?
I think it's just an innate interest. I was always fascinated by animals and being outside. One of my favorite things to do was just go hiking.
Yeah.
Out near water, being out near nature is just, it hits me right here. So certainly ecology was a huge focus of mine, but because I was doing 2 bachelor's degrees at the same time, I'm like, I'm not staying an extra semester for 1 extra class, so I'll just I'll go with a bio, which is totally fine, and I love bio, but yes, I had an ecology focus. Anyway, after undergrad, then I was teaching full-time in a middle school.
God bless you.
I developed good patience, but the experience was incredible because those students were my kids. I used to call them my kids. And it's funny to think that those kids are now probably married with kids of their own. Pretty crazy to think about, but that's what time does. So yes, before veterinary school, before I even heard the terms One Health, I was teaching elementary school students and middle school students, but I was also teaching adults as well. And then since that experience, I've been teaching high school students, but that comes in later.
So you've taught everybody. You have all the different ages. You just like teaching. It's just kind of your thing,
right? I think it's important to get kids interested in science in general and to have them understand where science plays into everyday life, especially now.
Absolutely.
When I talk about vaccines and it's on the news, everybody's talking about it, and
And so when you finished your undergrad and you were teaching, were you thinking at that point that you wanted to go to veterinary school, or was there something that shifted you along the way?
Yeah, I wanted to go to vet school when I was 21 when I was in undergrad. but I needed a break from school.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
And it was really interesting to see the classroom from the other perspective. Because by the time I got to veterinary school, I truly appreciated all the extra effort my teachers put into classes. Because I know what's behind that curtain. Teaching is hard, but it can be really fun. And especially if you have really good material that sets you up for success. And OneHealthLessons.com has that type of material. So
yeah. Now that's the part that I just there's so many different little threads here that I want to sort of piece together. So, because I know for me, so I graduated in 2002, and One Health, you know, there was a professor who worked on it kind of like in the corner lab, but you wouldn't know about it unless you sought her out because you were interested in bighorn sheep. So it's not like it was a main part of our curriculum. So how did you, was it because of your background in ecology? Like what led you to realize, gosh, we need to look at the big picture here and not just the animal world?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's funny because yes, ecology was a big thing for me. I was also considering human medicine. And I followed around a few doctors, physicians, and I thought it was interesting. I liked how medicine worked inside the body. I liked physiology, but it wasn't grabbing me. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't.
There's too many people. There's too many people.
Yeah. So, you know, I kept looking at other professions. And once I followed around 2 veterinarians, I was like, done. I was on a beach with a ecology class, actually, a marine ecology class. And it was like paradise. It was beautiful. And I remember, I'd rather be in the clinic right now. Who says those things?
I don't know.
Besides just insane people like me. So yeah. So at that point I had my, you know, light bulb go over my head, and yeah. And then at the vet school interview, I was saying things like, I feel like veterinary medicine has more of an impact than if I was, say, for instance, in another field, because if I say treated a cow with an infected udder, you know, has mastitis, then I can not only improve the quality of life for that animal, but I can also, by treating mastitis, influence the amount of milk production and the quality of milk production. And that plays a part in the family's well-being because they make money off of that milk, right?
That was probably the moment where they checked off, yeah, let her in. It's so nice. So glad someone isn't talking about puppies during their interview.
I mean, puppies are cute, right?
They are.
But I never heard the words One Health before. Yeah. At that moment, I had no idea. But I also saw that veterinarians can have that reach, right? And then in 2008, I was sitting in class in one of my classes meant for my Certificate of International Veterinary Medicine program. I did that with the DVM because, you know,
that's of course, because you have a double major in biology. You got to keep up the momentum, right?
So at that particular lesson, that's when I heard the term One Health, and I was like, what? Come again? Like, my life makes sense now?
Other people have had the same thoughts.
What? Yeah, so for the benefit of people who are not listening, who hopefully are listening, but not from veterinary medicine or ecology. So One Health is pretty much the idea that human health is reliant on animal health and environmental health. For that example that I just gave with an inflamed udder, well, cows and water buffalo, I was working with water buffalo for a summer with a One Health project. And I was looking for incidents of mastitis in those water buffalo. And I was trying to see if the people who own these water buffalo understood the relationship between keeping the environment clean and the occurrence of mastitis.
Did they?
Maybe. In theory, they were not applying their knowledge.
Okay.
Long story short.
Where was that project?
That was in Nepal.
Okay, I was gonna say that wasn't in like Poughkeepsie.
No.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, so that's environmental health, dirty environment causing problems with animal health, mastitis, inflammation of the udder, causing problems in human health because the family doesn't have money for their backyard cow or their backyard water buffalo. So that encompasses the whole general principle of One Health. Some people take it a step further and talk about the One Health approach, where veterinarians work with physicians, and then we work with environmental health scientists, so like ecologists, for instance. We all work together to make sure everybody stays healthy, the environment, animals, and people.
Now, it's interesting because I don't know if you've had the same impression as me, but the first time I heard about One Health, I said, well, of course. Of course, it's all interconnected, and I can't wait to be in this big community of physicians and ecologists and policymakers and veterinarians. And then you get there, and it's just the vets. like for some reason, people don't realize the way that we do that. All of these things are so connected, but I think unless there's something really big happening either in your life or in everybody's life, you forget. And so maybe it's helpful for people who are unfamiliar with One Health to describe kind of why it's so important right now, like why this whole confluence of animals and people, and why it's so important to understand that in a COVID world.
Yeah, absolutely. Now's the time to talk about it, which is great as a platform, but we can't, it would be a horrendous miss of an opportunity if we stay silent right now. And that's one of the reasons why I was pushing for the launch of that website, onehealthlessons.com, because it has a particular online free lesson for kids anywhere between the ages of 6 and 18 plus. Actually, I wanted to have some general public lessons in there. And it comes down to COVID-19 and One Health. So the way One Health plays into COVID-19 is that this virus, SARS-CoV-2, originally came from an animal. That's the theory. That's what a lot of experts are saying right now. And we think that it's coming from a bat because it's a type of coronavirus called a beta coronavirus. So coronaviruses are a family of viruses. Now, beta coronaviruses come from bats. We don't yet know if there's an intermediate host in there in the mix. We don't yet know where the mutation happened. Was it in the bat? Was it in the first human to make it so transmittable between people? It's one thing to have a disease hop into a single person. Okay, stinks for that one person. But once it gets transmittable between people, that is a huge concern. And so scientists are now trying to sequence the virus all throughout the world. There are, according to some literature, at least 3 strains that are out there. Say on the west coast of North America right now, that's coming from Asia. The east coast is coming from Europe. But ultimately, this is an RNA virus versus a DNA virus. RNA viruses tend to mutate more. And with more mutations, it's harder to combat a little bit because they're a little bit less predictable. But the way One Health plays in, yes, it comes from the animal, but what was the environment that forced that animal into close interaction with people, right? It could be wet markets for sure, live animal wet markets. Those can be hotspots for what we call disease spillover, so sharing of diseases between animals and people and between animals and other animals. Yeah. But we also have to talk about habitat destruction and what is actually forcing these animals to come out and have to live near us. They have no other choice for shelter or food. So, I mean, if I was them, of course I would go out looking for food and shelter. Oh, there's a human, fine. But, big picture.
No, but I mean, it is so complicated and it's so complex, which is why I am so impressed that you have this whole curriculum built out. Obviously, it's ages 6 to 18, One Health. This isn't something that you've just done recently. Like, how long ago did you start putting all of this material together?
Well, when it came to COVID-19 material, it was fairly fast. When I started teaching One Health to kids years ago. Okay. And I think the very first time it was with Earth Day or Career Day, something like that. But
was that when you were still in school?
No.
Okay. Like, you are just a glutton. Oh my gosh. teaching and schooling. Okay.
When I was in vet school, that was hard. All my time was devoted to school.
Yes.
Yeah, we all remember. But
did
yeah.
you start with younger kids and then realize that you wanted to build it out, or did you always sort of have the intention of having material for all of the different ages? Because they're not the same at all, like teaching to a high schooler versus teaching to a
Absolutely. A 6-year-old's coming out of the me phase.
Yeah.
And a 16-year-old is more like, I don't know if I really want to be talking to you, but
Right.
okay, if it has world impact, then yeah, I'm game. You know, I mean, oh. So yes, you have to definitely approach them in different ways, and certainly my background has made it a little bit easier for me to, craft these lessons. When it comes to development of the COVID-19 lesson in particular, I'm the type of person who likes to hear different stories from different people, and I just so happen to have friends who have postdocs in virology and immunology and evolutionary biology. And so anyway, the idea for this lesson came from just random conversations I'm having with my friends. I was like, okay, this needs to be out there, and this needs to be out there in a tangible, digestive way for kids to understand and no longer be afraid of this pandemic, because if they understand, then hopefully they won't be as afraid.
And not even kids, but people, I mean, we don't even, so I'm a veterinarian, like I have probably more knowledge than the average bear, but even I'm like, I got to ask my friend who knows virology to explain this to me. Like, it is really complicated. And I'm not sure people understand. Like, it's hard enough for a virologist to explain it to me as a vet, or for me as a vet to explain it to another adult. But for you to explain this to kids, like, that really involves some deep, deep understanding. And so you're not going to find this material, I think, anywhere else. And there is such a need for it right now, for multiple reasons. One, because the knowledge is needed, but two, because kids aren't in school. And I think teachers are really looking for some more of this material. So can you just sort of give an overview? If you're a teacher and you're thinking, yeah, I'd love to talk about that, but tell me more, like, how much is the cost? Where do I go?
Yeah. Excellent question. So the nice thing is I made the COVID-19 lesson accessible for free. And I did that because I don't want to profiteer off of a pandemic. I think that would be absolutely wrong. But I also feel that there's a huge need to have as many people as possible across the world understand where this virus likely came from. How can we protect ourselves? How can scientists right now work together in, say, a One Health approach to combat this virus? And when I say but, I mean to say, I wrote it in English, but I am asking for people around the world to translate some of these lessons into their native tongue, into their native languages, so it can meet all the needs around the world. And I made this lesson as simple as possible. All you need to do is have an online platform like Zoom or Skype or any others that allow for, number one, screen sharing. Number two, chat box, and that's for 8-year-olds and plus and over.
Okay.
Because you don't want a 6-year-old to just be type.
It's not going to end well.
Yeah, that's when the lesson would end.
Yeah.
But 8-year-olds plus, as well as muting and unmuting students. Okay. So those three things. So a simple online platform, and again, Zoom or Skype would be perfect opportunities. And what you do is you go to the onehealthlessons.com website, you go to the lesson section. At that lesson section, you see a Train the Trainer webinar. It's 34 minutes and it's free. You just need to register for access to it. And that walks you through the layout of the lesson. It gives you general idea, general concepts, general activities that you can walk through. Then on that same portion of the website, there's a lesson plan. So the teachers can easily just look through, okay, these are the learning objectives. And on the fourth third and fourth page, there are all of the next generation science standards that are applicable to the United States, at least 26 states in the United States, as well as, 5 or 7 key stage standards for the UK, as
Wow.
well as many different United Nations Sustainable Development Goals met by this one lesson.
So like, this isn't like when you go onto master class and it's some chef just kind of sharing a couple recipes. Like, this is a structured curriculum that meets specific educational standards, which is incredible. And thank you so much, for making it free for people. Now, is this only open to like licensed professional educators? If you homeschool your children, is that something that they can access as well?
Yeah, so this is open to anybody who registers on my site.
Okay.
But I do ask for completion of a 2-minute survey after you finish, because I feel like if this isn't going to be a free lesson, let's learn from each other, right?
Absolutely. That's the least you can do. We just talked about how much work this was. Fill out a survey.
So yeah, it's just a 2-minute survey. And what I really want to get out of it is, number one, how can I improve my lessons for the next lesson? Particularly, how does it meet the needs in your subculture of your country? Because this lesson is going worldwide. I've had interest from Singapore, New Zealand, Kenya, Rwanda, Belgium, UK, India. So I really need to know. Yeah, I'm thrilled with this. But I need to know what works in what cultures.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's really important for me. Because
I
have other lessons too.
Has there been anything that really surprised you in terms of like a difference between one culture or another, where you're like, it didn't even occur to me that I should do this or not that, like, or anything? Maybe there's not something you can say.
So far, honestly, so far around the world, the people who've been using the COVID-19 lesson have only written positive things, which is great. I love to hear this. Yeah. This is wonderful. And to answer your sub question from before, you were saying homeschooling or anything like that. There have been Girl Scout troops, Brownies troops, Boy Scout troops already using this. So
okay, cool.
You don't need to be
up for the troops too.
Yeah. You don't need to be a scientist. You don't need to know what a cell is. Just look at the Train the Trainer. And with this PowerPoint presentation for all these different age groups, alongside the presentation, you'll also see slide notes written in a PDF.
Oh, great. So it's really turnkey.
It's really turnkey. I made
Even if you're like me and you're like, I'm not very good at talking to kids. So.
Yeah, no,
honestly,
at the very bottom of the lesson plan, there's a tip when it comes to people who are like, okay, I don't know kids, but I want to deliver this message. There are actually tips with how to introduce yourself to kids and how to structure the lesson. So it's all there.
I was a Girl Scout leader for several years, but I was not very effective. I'm just saying that right from the start. I appreciate that. No, there's a reason I'm in veterinary medicine and not in teaching. Is there a badge for like a One Health badge?
Oh, you know what? With the Boy Scout troop, they were telling me that I could play into one of the badges.
Yeah, we got to find out, because that is the motivation that we all need, is the dog face. Or
yeah, for sure. No, there definitely is a associated One Health badge. What I would absolutely love is to have a true One Health badge. You know,
we gotta get a hold of the Girl Scouts of America and see if we can get that on the docket.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is great. So basically, you guys, no matter who you are, whether you are an educator already, you already know where you need to go. And if you're not, and you're like me, and you're thinking my kid's teacher needs this, you can send them there, share it on your Facebook. Let everybody you know that they should go to this website. So it's onehealthlessons.com on the web, but you also have some social media that people should follow. Yes.
On Instagram. Facebook? Yep. And Facebook. Yep. Just type in One Health Lessons, plural. One Health Lessons, plural. And you got me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this amazing information. Is there anything else
Yes, actually, when it comes to the Facebook page in particular, I am constantly adding articles from New York Times or other like Nature, anything that could be great extra learning material, like follow-up material after lessons. And I say specifically what age group these articles would be appropriate for.
Like the 6-year-olds aren't going to want to read the New York Times.
No, not at all. Okay. But if you are as interested in this as just, you know, a curious adult, then certainly look at the Facebook page and you'll like it. Again, One Health Lessons.
One Health Lessons, plural.
Yes.
And it's spelled out ONE. It's not the number one, right? So all of this stuff, I don't want you guys messaging me later. But I'll put it on the bottom here too. It'll be a nice little number. So thank you again, Dr. Thompson. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much, Dr.
One of my passion points. Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll talk soon. Thanks again.